The general who became a slave. The slave who became a gladiator. The gladiator who defied an emperor. Striking story. Now that people want to know how the story ends.
That was Gladiator's plot, finally recapped by Joaquin Phoenix's Commodus. What'd he do, read the summary of his own movie or something? What happened after this scene wrapped up the movie so nice and neatly, there was no need for a sequel to one of the greatest movies of all time. Russell Crowe's Maximus, a general turned slave, turned gladiator, turned mortally wounded, kills Commodus in the middle of the Colosseum, therefore avenging the wife and son who Commodus murdered. He liberates his fellow gladiators and fulfills the last wishes of his former emperor, Marcus Aurelius, allowing Rome to flourish once again. There's nothing left for Maximus to do but die, and so he does. On all terms, he won. He finds himself in Elysium, reunited with his wife and son, but more importantly, got back to all that sweet, sweet field of wheat. Cut to credits, it's all over. You feel good that your favorite hero has died. No need for a sequel. Everyone is satisfied like it was an hour after Thanksgiving dinner. There's no logical way for Maximus to return. But what if there was an illogical way? Bet you didn't think of that, did ya? Russell Crowe wanted to return as Maximus, so he went to the one place everyone finds a screenwriter, a rock concert. After watching Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds perform, he said, he's the one. Russell Crowe immediately realized he was talking to himself at a rock concert, so he beat up the closest guy for merely existing next to him. Crowe then got in touch with Nick Cave and asked him to punch out the screenplay. At the time, Nick Cave only had one screenwriting credit to his name, the ultra-famous smash hit Ghost of the Civil Dead, directed by John Hillcoat, obviously. Cave would later go on to write The Proposition, also directed by Hillcoat. It would be the closest we've come to having a Blood Meridian on screen so far. Hillcoat is actually set to direct an adaptation of Blood Meridian, which I actually think is a mistake, but that's another video for another time. There is no other reason why I brought this up other than I wanted to mention Blood Meridian. Sue me. And by sue me, I mean leave a comment below on why you think Blood Meridian is the greatest book ever written. My comment section was always here. Before man was, my comment section waited for him. Anyways, Crowe asked Nick Cave to write the Gladiator 2 sequel. Nick was like, hell yeah, I will. One problem, aren't you dead, mate? Crowe said, I shit you not, this is a direct quote. Yeah, you sort that out. Then punches his butler square in the ribs before heading to the Alps. This scenario right here is a screenwriter's wet dream or worst nightmare, and Nick Cave couldn't find a dry pair of pants fast enough. The screenplay he wrote was if Dante's Inferno and God of War ran a train on Apocalypse Now who became pregnant, and that baby grew up to ambush X-Men Origins Wolverine and the Jakes. The story opens up with our boy Maximus in the afterlife. It's not the wheatfield Elysium he was promised at the end of Gladiator, but on the shores of a black ocean where refugees are huddled together. Mordecai, the Virgil to Maximus's Dante, guides our hero to a temple to meet with the god Jupiter. And you're already like, whoa, this is exactly the sequel I envisioned. Don't worry, it gets better. And by better, of course, I mean absolutely more batshit insane. Not only is Jupiter there waiting for Maximus, but also Mars and 5 other Roman gods. This is where Jupes throws down some plot. Hephaestus betrayed the rest of these gods. Maximus points out that Hephaestus is a Greek god, to which Jupiter says, shut your mouth and listen up, smartass. You got an underworld that needs saving, so it shouldn't matter to you if he's Greek or Mexican. A capiche? See, Hephaestus has gone rogue and is preaching the gospel of another, much more powerful god. So Jupiter makes Maximus an offer he can't refuse. If he kills Hephaestus, he will be reunited with his weed again. Oh yeah, and his wife and son if he wants them back too. If he fails, he's damned to eternal life on Earth. And this is where the screenplay turns from batshit insane to the clinically touched in the head. Maximus finds Hephaestus somewhere in the middle of the second act, is tricked by him, and gets his ass sent back to the land of the living, and thus ends the Apocalypse Now leg of the screenplay, and right into X-Men Origins Wolverine territory. Maximus returns to the world of flesh and blood, like as he plopped down from the sky. Does he just wake up back in the middle of the Colosseum to a roaring crowd? No. That's not hardcore enough for our boy. He comes back to life through the body of a dying man in the middle of a battlefield. No, I don't mean he possesses another man's body. I literally mean he pushes himself out of a dying man's carcass. Let that sink in for a bit. You don't need any more explanation. You know that sounds badass. Human again, he's off to find his very alive son Marius. Like Palpatine in Rise of Skywalker, somehow Marius returned. Like Jesus, he wasn't going to let something like a crucifixion stop him. Now Maximus's son is in his rebellious youth phase. And much like today, the most rebellious thing you can do back in those days was be Christian. This is the point of the script where it's a mirror image of the first act, but also plays out like a straightforward historical epic, until it doesn't. Much like finding the refugees on the shores of the Black Ocean, Maximus finds early Christians dodging Roman authorities and bumps into his old pal Jaimin Hansu's Juba. So who is the big bad in this version that needs snuffing out like a United Healthcare CEO? Well, it's none other than Lucius. Yeah, none of this retconning him into being Maximus's son stuff. Lucius in this sequel is just as evil as his loser uncle Commodus. Unlike his bumcle though, Lucius is a feared general hunting down Christians. Well, this isn't the story of Saul. He has no road to Damascus moment and screws with the wrong Christians, ending up dead. He chases down the surviving Christians into the woods. A battle of epic proportions kicks off. There are swords and arrows and twigs and berries flying everywhere. Mass hysteria. Maximus kills Lucius with a death blow from his sword, and Marius shoots him through the neck with an arrow just in case he isn't dead enough already. And this is where you go, oh, okay, Zombie Maximus and Marius win, and this is more like the White Walker's origin story in Game of Thrones than a sequel to Gladiator. That was crazy, but I think I really liked it. End credits, I'm smoking this cigarette because I'm spent. And that's where you're wrong, bucko, because the third act makes the last two acts look sane and with all its marbles intact. With no explanation and through a smash cut alone, Maximus does his signature move of getting down on his hunches to pick up a handful of dirt from the battlefield before rubbing it through his hands. When he stands, he's in the middle of the desert in a white uniform with a cross on it. Hundreds of other crusaders surround him. We follow Maximus as he strides through major battles throughout the centuries, from both World Wars to Vietnam, Desert Storm, to the middle of the Pentagon, of course. He fixes his tie in a bathroom mirror, then turns to find Mordecai behind him. Maximus greets him with the typical Pentagon hello of, "Ah, Mordecai." Not to be outdone, Mordecai hits him back with the strong, "Yes, Maximus," until eternity itself said its prayers. Maximus isn't confused by this. We are, but this makes perfect sense to him. Now over the morning's greetings, Maximus returns to the Pentagon briefing room where he opens a laptop before uttering these last lines of the film. Now, where were we? Roll credits to no applause but general confusion. Screw happy or sad endings, go for confusion. That's where it's at. And there it is, the most batshit insane sequel never made. Nick Cave handed the script back to Russell Crowe, and it went about as well as you think. His response, "Don't like it, mate." And there's where the script died. Eternity had said its prayers after all. To be honest, Nick Cave's Gladiator 2 is either the coolest idea ever or complete garbage. It could be both. The movie Face Off does in fact exist after all. Hear me out. But if they casted Nicolas Cage as Hephaestus, it would have sealed the deal as being the best movie sequel ever made. Now, I'm not saying Nick Cave's sequel is necessary at all, because it's not, but it is a hell of a lot better than the Gladiator 2 we got. You have to admit, there are some interesting concepts going on here that would make a good standalone film, and it would have been a movie 1984's Ridley Scott would have attempted to tackle. Anyways, let me know in the comments if this version of a Gladiator sequel is something you would have watched and enjoyed. Do yourself a favor, smash the like button, hit subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more of my award-winning personality to fix your day. Not that I care about it or anything, but I got you. I'm out of here.
What we doing live? Echoes in eternity.